So today we've got a Massachusetts on Two Brothers, and we spawned mid. You know where this has to go. Let's have a fun Friday video to finish out the week, and maybe I can tell you a little bit about what I'm thinking about while I'm pushing mid on Two Brothers here, because it's not as easy as hold W and win. There's a few things that we do want to take note of, and that starts with who's on the enemy team. Are there carriers? Are there subs? Where do we think they've spawned? So no carrier here certainly helps things a ton, since in this channel, you are a very, very juicy target for a carrier. However, not every carrier is going to do well against you in here. It's a very narrow area that makes it very difficult to drop the broadside of your ship. So torpedo bombers are not going to do as well in here, as are skip bombers. They're really not going to do quite as well in these scenarios because it's just a little bit too narrow to drop easily. You can still do it, but things like dive bombers, especially those American ones, and some of the armor-piercing ones, yeah, they're going to hit you pretty hard. So be aware of that. Look for what carrier there is. Subs spawn on the flanks these days more often than not, so we're feeling pretty good about that. The other thing we want to do is oftentimes take a bit of a wide angle going around this corner. Sometimes you're going to meet a ton of enemy ships here, and you need room to turn into this corner. Why I like to take a bit of a wider line. I'll actually push my nose into the corner of that area and then just start reversing. The fastest way to get your ship in reverse is to ground and then reverse. It's really very slow to do that when you are in open water. So keep that in mind. You do want to have that option. If you do go a little bit wide around that corner, spot a bunch of people, maybe giving you that option to get away or at least delay the onslaught that is coming. That's not happening here. We're certainly paying attention to the minimap, noticing how many of the enemy team are around the D and A caps. And yeah, we pretty much got a straight shot. In this case, we also are not getting spotted at all here. So we didn't spot anything coming around that corner, but at the same time, we didn't get lit. The only thing that spotted us is radar at this point, which means there's no one in their spawn. It's a really great way to gain information. Are you spotted? Where could someone be spotting you from if you are spotted? Here, though, the Alaska maybe forgets we're here, and we get some of the best dispersion I think I've ever seen in a Massachusetts. Yeah, that's not going to happen every time. It certainly helps, though, that the Alaska was broadside, so we do a massive chunk to him. And notice the positioning here. It's not often that I'm pushing out of this channel. Typically, that's going to get you very dead to the enemy ships in spawn. Notice how broadside I would be to anyone sitting in their spawn area, or even any battleships that are north of the A cap. There we go. We do finally get a little bit worse salvo, but pretty tough to complain after that first one. And we even get a couple fires on that poor Alaska there. But this play really only works when we know we're not going to sit broadside on to a bunch of battleships here. It's great if the enemy team is mostly north of the D cap. The fire does manage to take him out, but we're still spotted here, which means the DD is probably after us. So we want to reverse as fast as we can back into the channel, which is a really safe point when it comes to torpedoes. They have to torpedo bow on, and that is a lot more difficult to land a devastating salvo on a battleship. The other thing is Massachusetts is coming back. So we pull back into the safety of this channel. The idea here is we can take a lot of 1v1 fights. I often talk about this when it comes to brawling and island cover. We want to use islands to take 1v1s or as favorable fights as we possibly can. Look at the Missouri video from this week. If you missed it, a great brawl, more in open water with smaller islands to use. Mid Two Brothers here helps a ton, where it just severely limits the number of people that can shoot at you. And if they are going to come after you, they pretty much have to enter the brawl, which is going to go great in a Massachusetts. We're still trying to reverse out of the way, though. Massachusetts, I was a little concerned he might come ram us or something like that. We're still reversing back, and I don't know if the enemy DD is charging in the cap, trying to come YOLO me or not. So again, may as well keep our distance. If there are a lot of people around the B cap on the enemy team, or just outside of the choke point, could be the C cap if you're spawning north, I really love sitting around the midpoint of the Two Brothers channel, allowing you to take the fight while you feel confident, but as soon as you start to take too much damage or something like that, you can disengage. I really, really appreciate the way the channel is angled in this Two Brothers map. It seems very intentional by the developers to allow us that reprieve potentially, or the option to go undetected or have a break from the firing. If it was a straight shot, it would be a lot more difficult to use, and I appreciate that it isn't a fully straight channel. The DD is still spotting us, but does leave the cap at this point, so I know he's pretty far away, so we can charge up again. This is what I'm talking about. If you're coming through here at the beginning of the game and haven't spotted someone, but you're detected like this, you know there's a DD or maybe a cruiser farther back that is spotting you at this point. And that would be a time where I don't want to push out of this channel very much. However, we've kind of won this game as a team, so we're just going to full send it in. I'm a little worried about potential torpedoes here. I'm thinking the enemy destroyer maybe ran towards where the Seattle is. I'm going to slow down to potentially avoid those torpedoes. I was going in a straight line at a constant speed for quite a while, but I really want to get a shot in on this Seattle. And the game is over. Unfortunate that it does end that way. It was a bit of a blowout, but I had a ton of fun. The Massachusetts is a great Tier 8 battleship. We all know that. It's pretty OP, honestly. The reason it's not for sale anymore. And getting it on Two Brothers was just an extra special treat. So I hope you enjoyed on this Friday. And, well, let's take a look at the commander. Because you might have noticed, we actually don't have full range on our secondaries. I'm giving up long-range secondaries on the commander. And why would I do that? Well, I'm trying this new mid-range focused brawler build. This has worked really well on some of the German battleships, and while I think Massachusetts has the secondaries to use long-range secondary, I think that I want to try it out. Basic survivability really helps us survive through a lot of fires. That dot damage adds up very, very quickly, and we want to avoid it as much as possible. Concealment, fire prevention though, of course, and even manual secondaries here. On the upgrade slots, I am definitely taking secondaries still, since I don't have any access to accuracy upgrades on the main guns here. It's just a weird trait of the American battleships. But hey, we'll still take some secondaries and get them out to, 9.5? That's still pretty decent. Although after playing the Massachusetts, part of me feels like I really can fully invest in secondaries on this ship. The extra healing is just so powerful in dealing with some of those dots that maybe I don't need to give up the secondary range in favor of fighting fires a little bit better. I could also put back on damage control system mod 2. It does mean we're less maneuverable, unfortunately, but we would still fight fires in the same capacity we are at the moment. Again, I always want to take 2 out of the 3, either the upgrades here or the flag here or the commander skill. 2 out of those 3 typically is where I draw the line, kind of diminishing returns at that point. But this hybrid build kind of worked pretty good. Another reason I like to take it for me personally is I often find myself getting baited into situations where I'm pushing when I really shouldn't be. The secondary range makes me want to get the secondaries shooting, and I often push just a little too much and find myself dead. So making those secondaries a little bit shorter forces me to really consider if a push is worthwhile or not. But that's for me personally. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Massachusetts is always a good time, and hey, Two Brothers mid, it's iconic for a reason. So thank you very much for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.